Hi everyone, that was a video of us driving around in a Porsche 914 with a newly built 2056cc engine with a unique dual throttle body EFI fuel injection system. So I'm going to be going over in this video that system and everything about it, so check it out. This is our 2056cc Porsche 914 motor that is equipped with an aftermarket EFI electronic fuel injection system. So the motor has basically dual throttle body, 40mm throttle bodies. It's got a fuel rail attached here. It's got your 21 pound/hour fuel injectors attached there. It's got a central actuated linkage system for the throttle bodies. Our fuel line is set up such we're utilizing a fuel pump here, but we're basically bringing our fuel in here. It runs across here, goes to the other throttle body, but temporarily we've got a fuel pressure gauge set up. And then on the return side, it's regulated by, the fuel pressure is regulated by the stock fuel pressure regulator. And then we run our return line back out. So this setup we have right here is where we're getting our vacuum, and we're running a vacuum line here across the motor to a central T. Both lines are meeting, and then that feed goes to our MegaSquirt system. Comes in right here. So this is basically, on this table is basically our entire setup. Our battery, we've got a for testing, we've got a little switch system, lets me start the motor and so on. We're just utilizing this old gauge for the oil pressure light, and we have an air fuel ratio meter. And so in this box right here is where we got our EFI system, and we've got a small fuse block for our fuel injectors and for our air fuel ozone oxygen sensor. And then we've got our couple of relays, one of which is for the fuel pump, and the other one is just for the system in general. So essentially what we've set up here is where we're going to have one basically waterproof box where we keep our EFI system computer. We're going to run out one cable here. All of these other stray cables are just part of the test setup, but this one cable is going to run from this box here, and basically it's the engine harness. And from that harness, we have one going to the throttle position sensor, one set of leads. We've got one lead going to our cylinder head temperature sensor. We've got a set of leads going up here to what will be our air temperature sensor. And then of course we're running a set of leads over to our fuel injectors. Our exhaust system, we have a bung and we have a oxygen sensor which runs out basically and connects to our air fuel ratio gauge and to our EFI controller. Now the reason we're doing that fuel only is on this one we want to retain the looks of the distributor system, but also we did not want to attach a crankcase position sensor, which would have meant we would have had to install one of those, and we'd rather just use the signal from this distributor, which is a electronic distributor, and it has the capability of tuning the advanced curve on a Bluetooth, basically a phone app. So really it is a 100% electronic fuel injection system with electronic points and ignition as well. Now from our motor harness, we're also running up a shielded cable which goes to the negative side of our coil, and this is how we get our RPM signal, and that's how the MegaSquirt system knows the speed of the motor. And you know, the coil is obviously hooked up to this ignition distributor, and that distributor is a 1, 2, 3 ignition distributor. It is basically an electronic distributor, and so there's no points in this system, but also this is a programmable distributor, and the advanced curve is basically fully programmable. And so essentially we have a fuel only system. So the EFI, the MegaSquirt system, is really only controlling fuel, and we're having this electronic distributor basically handle the ignition for us. So effectively, with both parts, we have 100% electronic fuel injection and ignition system. And with everything wired in on the test stand, worked, gone over, and reworked, we were ready to give the engine a start for the first time and see what happens. Showtime. Needed a free hand. didn't stay running because we did not have our fuel set up correctly in the software, so really not getting enough fuel to keep it running. Basically worked it till we got these settings correct, and then we could transition this motor off of the stand. Now for this Tangerine muffler, we ran into a bit of an inconvenience. I am used to installing engines on 914s with the exhaust completely installed. We didn't realize until having the engine already under the car that this wasn't going to work for this setup. We had to decide then whether to remove the axle, or as we did, removed again the muffler and intermediate pipe. With the engine installed, we did some further fine-tuning of the linkage. This procedure is basically the same as what you would do for a dual carburetor setup. So in this case, what is going on is we've got the throttle bodies pulling the same flow at idle. However, when we get off of idle, this throttle body is leading that one, so this one's bringing in more air. This one goes lean and quicker than that one, so it's a linkage issue. So we'll have to figure that out and get these things to not only be pulling air at the same rate at idle, but when the linkage engages, they essentially have to pull, they have to open the same at the same amount. With everything then in basic tune, it was time to take the car out for a test drive. my impressions of this setup. First, I will say that I have a very favorable impression of this setup. The engine pulls strong. We had lots of misshifts, as you probably saw in the video. We had installed the Tangerine shift rod, which worked very well actually, but we simply weren't used to it in the car. The sound of this setup is very good, nice and throaty. The car accelerates good with lots of torque up to high RPM. You get similar performance and sound that you would from, say, a dual Delorto setup, but with the benefits of fuel injection. Using the tuning software, we were able to eliminate any flat spots that you sometimes have with carburetors. With the fuel injection, the engine starts up every time on the first crank. This is a huge thing, as with carburetors, you don't drive the car every day. The gas evaporates, and then it takes a while to start. With fuel injection, it starts right away every time. It's under high pressure, it's sealed. It's a sealed system. No real chance for the gas to evaporate. So after sitting here, it starts every time. So pros would be customizable to any engine displacement. You can use modern, readily available fuel injectors, and it looks to be easy to maintain. That concludes the overview of the fuel injection system. So now I'm going to go over a few other things about this engine. So for this system, we're utilizing the stock crankcase breather port, but instead of running it to the stock fuel injection system, we're basically ringing one common pipe up, and we are connecting it to the inlets of this fuel injection system here. And so what that allows us to do is basically any pressure that's building up in the crankcase, any oil vapor can get sent back into the throttle bodies and basically get burned through the motor. If you don't set up something like this, you'll get vapor in your engine compartment, and the oil mist will form everywhere, and it makes it sort of a messy situation after a while. What you're looking at here is the Tangerine Racing header system. It's basically got a header system here. This one is the 1.5 inch setup. Start over here, and you can see the way it's attached to the heads is a little nicer than the stock heat exchanger setup. There's a little more clearance there. Basically it comes out and all collects into one outlet pipe. Both sides are basically connected together, and these are you basically just insert this. There's no need to weld this or anything. This is just inserted, and it does not leak. It just holds. So pretty simple to assemble. And then basically collects to one point here, and then we have our oxygen sensor here because we're using fuel injection, and then basically comes out to a central muffler and comes out at the stock location. Lastly, the system comes with a mounting bracket that allows you to connect that to your transmission for support, because if you didn't have that, this gets a little bouncy there. We also have installed Tangerine Racing's stainless steel pushrod tubes, which they're a little more difficult to install, but so they promise to provide fewer leaks. That concludes the video about the Porsche 914 engine with the dual throttle body EFI setup. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please like and subscribe, and that lets me know that there is interest in this sort of thing. Until next time, thanks.